Hello, good morning, dear viewers, and I'm very happy to be with you this morning for the last edition of Maritime Africa Live in English of this year. Today is very special because for the first time I will have a co-host on this program. She is the executive director and host of Port and Maritime Agenda, a, a press group, or I should say, a press dedicated to the maritime sector, and she is based in Ghana. Hello, Jacqueline. How are you?
I'm fine. Hello, Boss Carlos. It's good to see you.
Very happy to have you this morning for this edition of Maritime Africa Live. So tell me a little bit about how you get to launch. Should I say a press? Is it a press, a group, a press group? What is it in the maritime sector?
Okay, first of all, I would like to thank yourself and your organization for giving me this opportunity to co-host Maritime Africa Live. I must say, it's an honor for me, and I'm really privileged to be here. Thank you so much. Port and Maritime Agenda,
You're welcome.
for short, is PAMA. It's a maritime TV program which is focused on port and maritime issues. We get to engage stakeholders and industry players. We ask for their insights on issues regarding the maritime sector, the challenges, the way forward, the expectations, among others. With that, we broadcast them live to our viewers, our audiences, to understand what the whole sector is about. Yeah, so that is what we do when it comes to Port and Maritime Agenda. It's everything maritime, asking relevant questions and steering up the affairs of the maritime industry.
Okay, thank you very much. And I will let you introduce our guest of the day.
Okay, it's a privilege to introduce our guest for today's program. He's very passionate about the port and maritime industry, and with over 15 years in port operations, he thinks the sector is motivational and with lots of fun. He says there is a lot to improve and optimize. Mr. Nabil NAIMI is our guest on Maritime TV Live. Mr. Nabil,
Hey, thank
it's
you.
good to
Thank you
have
for the
you.
thank you. Thank you for the presentation, Jacqueline. Appreciate it.
Welcome, sir.
Hi, Carlos. Thank you.
Yeah, good morning, Nabil. It's good to have you with us this morning.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so Nabil, we will start with talking about operations planning. When we talk about operation planning, what what is it? What
So it's yeah, okay. So I like it. So let's start first by giving or setting the definitions, because it's a little bit confusing, or there is some misunderstanding when it comes to operational planning. And to me, this comes a little bit from history. It's historically in the container terminal, I think there was not a lot of planning, and this is, at least I'm not very old in this business, 15 plus years, but definitely this is a very old industry. But at the beginning, all we had in terminals is execution teams doing the job, handling the containers, and we had some people in the office preparing the data, lists of containers to be loaded or discharged. And this is what we called more or less the planning team or the planners. So in the current world, and with all the improvements we're seeing in the operations in container terminals, I'm talking about ports, but I will be more specific about container terminals, because this is where all the or most of the planning has an impact. So in the current world, we see that it's not only about loading or discharging a list of containers from a ship, but it's more about optimizing the moves or the moves in a container terminal, prioritizing containers, aiming for some goals and reaching some highest productivity, minimizing the costs. And this is what's, to me right now, the operation planning is really looking at every single move, every single details in a container terminal, and being in control of it, planning it ahead instead of waiting for it to happen and then reacting. But currently, it's true, we're still looking, or we're still understanding that a planner, unfortunately, in most of the terminals, we can come back to this later, we still understand that a planner, what he's doing is still the same old job of entering data in the system, specifying a list of containers to be moved, which is currently, if we want to give it a name, it will be data administration, cargo control, depends on where you are in the world. So this is not planning to me.
Okay, thank you. But tell me, how comes that you are so much interested into terminals and operation planning?
So, see, at the beginning, it was just by chance. It was random. And I think this is, or this was, it's not the case now, it was the case in our continent, because we were not very, very familiar with this business. We had some small traditional ports. My case was in Morocco at the beginning of Tangiers Med, the big transshipment hub. And I was a young graduate, and I had an engineering degree. So all I had in mind is just to go to a technology firm and work in technology, electronics, whatever. But then I heard a new operator, by the way, it was APM Terminals, just implementing the first terminal in Morocco. And I heard about that. I went to a forum, and then I saw the guy explaining to me about operations. And he said, okay, this is what we're doing. This is how the environment looks like. And we're moving boxes. So at the time, it looks to me very exciting. It looks to me that something new. And most importantly, it will not be boring. So I had that intuition, that feeling that it will not be boring. And that was true when I joined. I was amazed, like how in this industry, you get to deal with new challenges every other minute. So it's not boring at all. With all due respect, with the opposite to other fields, technology, where I had my diploma, which is electronics. To me right now, I cannot imagine myself in that industry anymore. But in the port industry, I can live in a port 24 hours, no problem.
Okay, I see. So from Tangier, where you were working, you are now in Netherlands.
Yes.
Where you have a consultancy firm. Tell me a little bit about the different services that your consulting firm offers.
Yeah, so actually we're offering, or we're helping container terminals around the world in two aspects. So there is the operational aspect of it, and there is the technical aspect or the technological aspect of it. So technically, we're helping terminals to adopt new technology. We're helping them introduce new automation technology, integrate new systems, new softwares, new trains. When it comes also to even the newest proof of concepts of autonomous vehicles, of AI and machine learning decisions. So this is the technical aspect. On the other side, we're helping terminals also operationally by streamlining their process, looking at their process and optimize them. And recently we started a port excellence program where we're helping specifically the planning teams around the world. We can come into the details later. It's not only by coaching the planning teams or training them or streamlining their process, but also by offering a new service, which is the remote planning. So helping the terminals taking over parts of the burden on them and doing even remote operations planning from an office based in Tangiers.
Okay. Thank you very much. Now I will let Jacqueline talk with you about the challenges in operations planning.
Okay, so Mr. Nabil, first of all, I would like you to outline the challenges faced during operational planning.
Yeah, so there are plenty. So yeah, all operations is about challenges.
Okay.
And to me, if you allow me, I would focus mainly on the ones which are touching to the planning.
Okay.
And the position of the planning or the planners in operations. So to me, I mean, all this what's coming with bigger new vessels, new complex ship services, port rotations, tight schedules. So all that comes now to the execution teams running behind executing vessels quickly, trying to respect the deadlines and all that stuff. But the big challenge to me right now in the planning team is that if not the majority of the terminals does not give or empower the planning team. And this way we see that the execution team are very good at what they are doing. They are moving containers, but we're not taking a big benefit of that planning team sitting in the corner, getting paid and doing practically nothing or to a minimum of things in most of the terminals. And to me, this is the big challenge and at the same time, the big opportunity of improvement in the current world terminals.
Okay. So from your perspective, would you say there are weak systems and efficient processes in operations planning?
There are, yeah. So there are a multitude of processes that can be improved. But to be honest, I mean, when it comes to processes, everybody knows about them, and all the terminals around the world will give you on paper a document saying, okay, these are our planning processes. This is how we do it, and everything theoretically is good. But when you go to practice in the real life, you see that these things are not fruitful. Let's say, because to me, planning is not about, or it's not only about processes. Processes is a very small part of it, but to me is more about those teams. Because see, operation, as I described it before coming live, is a game. I look at it like this. I look at it as a video game. So, and this is how an operational planner should look at it, at least in my approach. So if that guy is not like willing to play, is not motivated to play and win that game, a process will not help a lot. And a process, maybe at the opposite, will be tying him not to innovate, not to think out of the box a little bit. So I kind of disagree a little bit when we try to set fixed, rigid procedures for the planning team. It should be like these procedures should set the boundaries a little bit, but we should give more power, more freedom to the planning team to innovate and to. It's a game. I mean, when I'm playing a video game, it's about innovation. It's about how I react to events and how quick I am to analyze the situation and take decisions. It's not about a pre-written scenario which I have to follow.
Okay. So, Mr. Nabil, to what effect are these challenges having on the industry?
So the challenge is that you're getting an execution or a port operations which been executed, as a reaction to events. You're not doing prevention. You're not doing really planning, so you're not preventing issues or bottlenecks from happening in operations, but you're just reacting to when it happens and you try to solve it. So there is a huge, it's a treasure. The planning team you got in the corner is a treasure. You should be using as a container terminal or as a port in general to lead your operation and to orchestrate the moves in your terminal. But the effect right now, if you're not using that, is that execution teams, all the cranes, all the vessels are being handled without, how to say, without a plan, without preventing the issues from happening. And that causes a lot of bottlenecks, and we see people, and we see container terminals, struggling to reach their goals, struggling to reach highest productivity rates.
Okay. So finally, from where you sit as an experienced man in the sector or the industry, how do we deal with these menace so that it won't be encountered in the coming years?
I think it should be, I mean, yeah, it's good. We already have a lot of, I mean, I'm talking about the context again in our continent. So all these, we did not have a lot of logistics diploma or diplomas oriented to the operational planning. So now we see more and more diplomas focusing on logistics. That helps a lot. That introduce the students a little bit to the concepts of operations, to logistics in general, and they come to the container terminals as at least with some background. That's already good. But what I think we should also do, and that's from the container terminal operators and or the terminal operators in general, they should arrange a continuous training to the planning team. And when I talk about training, it's not what we're seeing theoretical plan. I'm talking about practical training, and practical training in operations in general. What we see right now, and you hire a new planner and you explain to him the processes and you show him on a computer, this is a vessel, this is a container, which looks like in most terminal operating system, like a square, colored square, nice square. And then you tell the planner, okay, so you should move this container from this box to this box, from this square to this square, which is the yard and the vessel or the gate or whatever represented in a computer screen. But what I mean by the training on operations is really to train the planning team on execution itself, on operations. And to me, a planner should start by getting training in the field with the execution team. Why not working as, with the vessel supervisor, with the crane supervisor, working in the field, putting twist locks, working with the lashers. Why not even sitting next to a truck driver, a reach stacker driver, a crane driver? So what I want to achieve by this is that planner needs first to understand that what he's dealing with or what he's moving in his computer, this is like huge piece of metals which weigh 30 tons, 40 tons, and even more sometimes. And you should really consider the impact of every click you do on your computer. And this is what we're missing. And to me, this is what makes the difference between a good and a medium or let's say an average planner.
Okay. In a nutshell, how do we balance quality and growth when it comes to operational planning?
Sorry, how to balance quality and
growth?
Can you explain more?
Okay, I'm taking the question again. I'm asking that how do we balance quality with growth when it comes to operational planning?
Yeah, but can you explain more? What do you mean by growth? I did not get it.
Having right measures to grow the sector. Yes, and then having competent people to help grow the sector. So how do we balance these two to help the industry go far?
I'm afraid I did not get the question. Please explain more.
Okay. Mr. Carlos is on standby to give us the trends. So I think over to Mr.
Yes, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Jacqueline. So, Nabil, I would like to know, are there some specific challenges that you have seen in Africa when we are talking about operations planning that are not in other continents?
Yeah, they're not. It's not that they are not in other places of the world, but maybe some of the things that are most apparent in Africa. And first thing which I see is that it's not only in Africa, but all what they called emerging countries.
Economy?
Yeah. So what you see is that the governments, when they sign a contract with a concession contract with a terminal operator, they have that obligation that you have to hire 80% or 90% of locals. And you have sometimes even in contracts, you have to hire a certain amount of people. And then you see container terminals or terminals in general bringing in teams of specifically in planning team, 10, 20, 30 people just sitting there. Maybe they don't need them, but just because to fulfill the contract, just to fulfill those numbers. And they have to be local. And most of the times they say, we're not allowed to bring foreign people because we're tied with this contract. So I think this is a good thing for the local human resources, but it should be a little bit relaxed to bring also foreign or external expertise and let the locals interact with them to gain the experience. So that's one issue we're seeing. And the second issue, it's not an issue. The issue is that we in Africa, we're still having a perception that we cannot innovate, we don't know a lot, and we need just to see how people are doing it abroad in other continents and then copy it. And you see, for example, you go in a container terminal and you see there are copy-paste from a container terminal somewhere else. When you ask them why you're not doing it like this, or when they have a problem, they would ask you, okay, but how they do it there in Europe, in America, in Asia, how they do it? Yeah, okay, I'll tell you how they do it, but just to give you another option, but it does not mean that that's the best. So you should yourself innovate and find what fits for your operations, and maybe you come with a better solution. But that perception that they are doing it better than us, that's what I see is limiting our young generations or our terminals from innovating.
Okay, so from what you've said, it means that one of the biggest problem in Africa, one of the biggest issue is training. We need to train more people who can be able to really work in the sector, in operations.
Training and empowerment.
Training in empowerment. Okay, so and also, wouldn't it be better if we try to bring foreigners for some times, and after we fulfill the rates, local and foreigner, that we are looking for?
Yeah, so that's, I mean, we should be open to that. I mean, everybody is learning. So so if you got someone experienced some, I mean, now in the continent, if we stay in the boundaries of the continent, we have enough expertise. So it's just like we need to use it. So we have some leading ports all around Africa, which were able to build up a lot of expertise and the climate around them, a lot of consultancy firm, a lot of solution providers around them, which can help the African continent. But locally in every country, we should be open to that, to bring new people, let them interact with the locals, and gradually take over the job. And by the way, this is, I mean, I had a lot of experience, especially with the planning team, where we go to a container terminal, we organize some training or coaching sessions for 1 week to 2 months. We monitor after the training, we try to help them. But once you got those trainer or experienced people leaving the terminal, everything quickly, it goes back to how it was before.
Oh, I see.
So this is why I'm saying it's sometimes because there is no empowerment, or sometimes because we cut completely with these foreign experts. And this is why, as I say, we're running now a port excellence program where we say, okay, instead of just teaching people about the planning and leave, why not just stay in continuous contact with these people and even offer to complement the local planning teams with our planners remotely. So we have this continuous interaction and learning between the local and experts from outside.
Okay. When you are talking of empowerment, is this empowerment also helps the local professional to innovate?
Definitely. So when I'm talking about empowerment, it's in two. It has two aspects. So empowering the local and their self-esteem that they are able to give more, they are able to innovate. It's not like they need just to copy paste. That's one aspect of it. The other side is empowering the planning team in a container terminal. If we're talking more about planning, like giving them more power or equal power with execution. Because what we see right now, we see execution doing the job, and planning our team is just entering or keying in the data in the system, which this is what they're not meant to do for. So empowering internally in a container terminal and empowering their self-esteem with regard to the external world.
Okay, thank you very much. Jacqueline, have you got
Yes.
any new question for Nabil?
Yes, I wanted to have a clear mind on something. Are we to just find the people to handle the task of finding the right people to do the job?
Yeah, so what's good, you see what's good about the planning or what's operations in general. I had a very old or a very experienced, let's say, from old school manager who always says operations is common sense. It's like you don't need to have a lot of experience. You don't need to have a high diploma. Take, for example, when I started in Tangiers, and I still see this all around the world, we had planners from all the subjects. So you had engineering, planners with engineering background, planners with linguistic diplomas, some people who had HR diplomas and they are working as planners. So it's a huge combination of backgrounds, and all of them, they are able to do planning. So the most important is to have the right person, the right character, which is able to handle stress and to think about the small details, because it's also about that person who's about, I'm not saying intelligence, but a certain, how they call it, like you have that sense of paying attention to too many small details at the same time. Is someone who, I mean, again, it's the same profile as someone who is very good at playing video games, who can quickly pay attention to a lot of small details. Because operations in general, what is it? I mean, I'm used to hear this from my friends when I was just graduate. They say, okay, but you're getting an engineering degree and now you're working as a planner. What you're doing at the end, you're just placing containers on a ship and taking them off the ship. Yeah, if you look at it like that, that's true. It's nothing mysterious. It's just moving a box. But moving a box, you need to consider its weight. You need to consider its port of discharge. You need to consider its size. You need to consider the other containers related to it, which other containers will be placed in its place. And then the list keeps growing and growing and growing. And then here, where is the difference is what is your capacity to keep in mind and to think about all these small details, analyze them, and come with a decision in a second. So this is really what makes the difference. But the job itself, moving, it's common sense. It's nothing mysterious.
Okay. From what you said, can we say that the difference, you have to develop some type of soft skills?
Definitely, yeah. There are a lot of skills to be developed as well. Like how do you manage stress? How do you communicate clearly and quickly? Taking decisions, sometimes even decisions that look like adventurous decisions, because I mean you as a planner, with one click, you can move 2-3 cranes, which is like billions of dollars you're moving with one click. So sometimes it's adventurous, but you need to take those decisions and don't be afraid if you're empowered. That's why I come back again. If you're empowered enough, again, if you have also the right training, the right experience, you should be able to do that as a training. And this is what makes difference between a planning team that leads the operation and a planning team who is just keen in data.
Jacqueline, any other question?
Any government interventions or regulations regarding the sector? If you mind sharing that with us.
If we're talking specifically about planning, I don't see a lot of impact, because if we're talking operationally in general, yes, especially there are some regulations, especially from customs. Customs are like the enemies of operations, so which are introducing a lot of rules. I mean, yeah, it's a must. It's a fact. We have to live with it. But these are kind of disturbing. Which is good also for the terminal, for the country, but they are kind of disturbing the operations. And this has an impact, and a planner and the operational team in general have to know how to react and how to handle these regulations in general, and these customs requests more specific. These, we call them variances, interruptions. And there is a saying that is, variances kills productivity. So operations, you reach highest productivity the more smooth your operation and the more repetitive it is. So once you have an interruption or a variance introduced, like a custom request, a new regulation, that kills your productivity and that disturbs your operation. So you should be able, and you should know how to handle it without losing that momentum or that rhythm of operations.
Okay.
Let's get to the trends. What are the trends in operations planning?
Yeah, so it's most of them are technical, but you see also something new. It's about remote. I mean, especially after the COVID, so you see a lot of adoption of remote operations. Remote planning. So a lot of terminals start having planning teams centralized in one place, and I'm talking here about terminals which are belonging to a group of ports. So they would have, instead of having planners sitting in every country, they will have them together in one place and planning remotely. And that's also what we're trying to offer to the container terminals who does not belong to a group and who need that expertise. So you can have a planner available 24/7 from one place to do the job for you, and even in a pay as you go or pay per container type of contract, which is very beneficial for the container terminal financially and in terms of expertise. Now, also, you see technically a lot of introduction of automation to the container terminals. And this comes with a huge impact on the planning team and the skills required in this team. Because now we're dealing more about automated cranes, automated twist lock handlers, kind of robots. So the reaction or the training of the planners is not the same. It's not the old times. The planner could pick a radio or a phone and call a supervisor and ask him and discuss with him why a move is executed such and such way and discuss with him. But right now, a planner, all he has is a system, or most of the cases, a multitude of systems who can open, and just with a couple of clicks, he needs to solve all these situations and move the cranes and give orders. So it's a completely different set of skills, which require a little bit more training on the software, to be more familiar with software handling and with technology. So also technically, we see a lot of trends that may impact the planning team is the adoption of all the automated planning modules, which were there since a long time, but now we see more and more terminals trying to adopt them and to implement them. I'm talking here about some software solutions which are helping automating the planning. Like you just tell to introduce to the system, okay, this is my ship, this is the list of my containers to be loaded, and then the system gives you a plan or a pre-plan how you can load these containers. So these were not adopted a lot before, but now we see more and more terminals focusing on implementing them and having the right people, the right training, how to monitor these automated modules. Because at the end, I always say nothing is automated, but it always needs some monitoring from the humans. And the last trend, which is now, to be honest, I still did not see it working 100%, is adoption of artificial intelligence and machine learning in the planning tasks. So a lot of companies now around the world are working in the first phases of analyzing the operational processes, analyzing what a planner is doing, what are the constraints a planner is handling, and trying to feed that to some machine learning algorithms to see if we can take over even one or two tasks. And this we see a boom in this research and development area.
Thank you very much. Talking about all these trends, tell me those who are more implemented in Africa.
More that are
more used or implemented
Okay.
in Africa.
Yeah. So I would say it's all of them in Africa. It's at an early stage. So, but they are being introduced here and there. For example, use of statistical data and trying to introduce some artificial intelligence models and see how to use this statistical data. Yeah, I saw it at least in one terminal in Africa who are working on such a project. A lot of terminals, of course, they are trying to adopt these automated planning modules. So yeah, remote planning, I still did not see it in Africa, except let's say one or two big groups who are adopting it, especially in Morocco. And when we talk about automation of equipment, of container handling equipment themselves, that's also in a couple of terminals, if not in one or two. Yeah, I think in Morocco, I don't know if in other places, but the only one I'm aware of right now is in Morocco. And yeah, and there you see that the people or the planners that were hired are newly graduate with a complete, they are completely fresh to get introduced to planning on an automated terminal. So we did not bring a lot of experienced planner from a manned terminal to do the job.
Okay, tell me what are the bad sides of these trends?
The bad sides is, I mean, to me, is that it's very complicated. So it's not intuitive, and all these technology we're introducing it to help, but it's still not mature enough. It's causing more trouble. So it's set around some processes which are fixed processes, but the first exception you face, then you need hours to fix it. And you see that the software, the technology, and the people managing it are not ready to handle these exceptions. So these technologies for now, most of them are nice, are perfect when it comes to happy day scenarios. But the first exception causes a lot of trouble.
Like cybersecurity attack.
Yeah, and that makes everybody crazy. We're not prepared enough. And this, like, it's like a snowball. So once you see this problem happening, I mean, go into the smallest example is the old optimization modules I say that automate some tasks of the planning. So most of the terminals, they purchase these solutions, they want to implement them, they implement them, but after a few months they let it down and they just give up because it's like a snowball. You run it, but the first issue it causes, you run, you want to let the vessel leave the terminal as soon as possible, you go back to your manual solutions quickly, and that reaction will just destroy all what you built, because these automation modules and these automated strategies need to be built up over time, and you need to be patient when you face an exception.
Okay, I see. Thank you very much. I think we are finishing our program. Jacqueline, have you got anything to say?
I just wanted to find out if there are other new trends that can be adopted in addition to the existing ones that we have already from our guest himself.
Yeah, I think that there are no specific trends, but I would say in general, the trend is to innovate. Because this business, the port industry, has been the same for decades, and it's very old, and it's one of the few industries which did not adopt a lot of changes the last years. And now we're waking up all around the world, not only in our continent, and we say, okay, we need to catch up with technology. We need to improve what we're doing. Because people are consuming, we have a lot of demand, and we need to catch up with that demand. And then you see people or terminals coming with new ideas, new crazy ideas around the world. Look, for example, at Box Bay by DP World in Emirates. It's complete different concepts where you have the warehouse system implemented for container terminals, which are stacked, 11 tiers, 11 containers on top of them, all robotized. You got, for example, Eagle Rail. I'm just saying. So new concepts on how to stack containers and how to deliver them to the gate, to the vessel, to the land, to the water side, and all that stuff. And also an adoption, for example, of autonomous vehicles. I'm not saying automated vehicles, but autonomous vehicles that can drive, it can handle containers in a mixed traffic environment together, that can work together next to a manned equipment. So in general is exploring, the trend is that terminals around the world explore complete new operational concepts.
Okay. Thank you very much. Nabil, if you were to advise people working in operations in Africa, what would you tell
them? Get more self-esteem and take it as a game. Not to be afraid to implement new crazy ideas. Not to just copy paste, but just try to implement something or innovate something yourself. There is a lot to do. It's it's a virgin field, and there is a lot that you can do.
Okay, thank you very much. Anything else you would like to add generally about operations?
No, I would just like to thank you for the invitation, and I appreciate what you guys are doing, helping this sector. And it's actually very good to hear that that there is a lot happening. There is a lot of people interested in improving this sector in our continent. I'm really happy for that, and thank you very much.
I hope that you will come back to set your company in Africa. You will come back from Netherlands to come and work fully in Africa.
Yeah, but see now it's all a small world. So yeah, based in the Netherlands, but also we have presence in Morocco, and we're doing a lot of projects in Africa. So it's not a choice. It's a fact. So right now in this, actually you have to be in Africa. That's the place where you need to be.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Jacqueline,
you're welcome.
I want to hear something from you before we finish.
Please come again.
I want to hear something from you before we finish.
Oh, okay, okay. It's been an insightful and educational conversation with our guest, and we so much appreciate all his submissions. They've been very useful, and he has really proven that yes, he's a key industry player, and we appreciate his time and effort to imbibe in us more knowledge and understanding when it comes to the sector. And I'm also privileged to be a part of this. And I especially want to thank again Maritime Africa for giving me such an opportunity. Yeah.
You're welcome. Thank you very much, Nabil. Thank you, Jacqueline, for making this happen. And thank you all those who are listening and watching us. We will see you very soon for another season of Maritime Africa Live from next year. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you, always.